A Hisense Smart TV that continuously reboots, disrupts your viewing experience, and signals an underlying issue that requires systematic troubleshooting. This persistent cycling through the startup sequence typically stems from power irregularities, software conflicts, or hardware component failures. The rebooting behavior manifests when the television's operating system encounters a critical error during initialization or operation, forcing the device to restart in an attempt to recover. Understanding the root cause requires examining three primary categories: electrical power delivery, firmware integrity, and physical component health. Begin troubleshooting by performing a complete power cycle, which clears temporary system glitches and resets the television's memory. Disconnect the power cable from both the television and the wall outlet, then press and hold the physical power button on the television itself for 30 seconds. This action discharges residual electricity from the capacitors and clears the temporary cache. Wait an additional 2 minutes before reconnecting the power cable directly to a wall outlet, bypassing any power strips or surge protectors that might introduce voltage fluctuations. Examine all cable connections to ensure secure attachment. Loose HDMI cables, particularly those connected to devices that draw power through the HDMI port, can create electrical feedback loops that trigger rebooting. Disconnect all external devices, including streaming sticks, gaming consoles, and sound systems, then power on the television independently. If the rebooting ceases, reconnect devices one at a time to identify the problematic peripheral. Software corruption frequently causes rebooting cycles, especially following incomplete firmware updates or application conflicts. Access the television's settings menu during a stable period between reboots. Navigate to the system or support section and check for available firmware updates. Hisense regularly releases patches that address stability issues and known bugs. If an update is available, ensure the television remains connected to a stable power source throughout the installation process, as interruption during firmware updates can exacerbate software problems. When software updates fail to resolve the issue, a factory reset restores the television to its original configuration, eliminating corrupted settings and problematic applications. Before proceeding, document your current settings and account information, as this process erases all customizations. Access the factory reset option through the settings menu under System or Advanced Settings. Some Hisense models offer a hardware-based reset accessible by pressing a small recess button on the television's rear panel for 15 seconds while the device is powered on. Thermal management problems cause rebooting when internal components exceed safe operating temperatures. Inspect the television's ventilation openings for dust accumulation, which restricts airflow and traps heat. Use compressed air to clear debris from the vents, directing the airflow from multiple angles to dislodge embedded particles. Ensure the television maintains adequate clearance from walls and surrounding objects, with at least 4 inches of space on all ventilated sides. Enclosed entertainment centers without proper ventilation create heat pockets that trigger thermal protection mechanisms. Power supply irregularities represent a common hardware-related cause of rebooting behavior. Voltage fluctuations from the electrical outlet, whether from grid instability or shared circuits with high-draw appliances, can prevent the television from maintaining stable operation. Test the television on a different electrical circuit in your home, preferably one dedicated to fewer devices. A quality, uninterruptible power supply or voltage regulator can stabilize incoming electricity and prevent reboot cycles caused by momentary power dips. The internal power supply board converts alternating current from your wall outlet into the direct current voltages required by the television's components. Capacitor degradation on this board manifests as insufficient or unstable power delivery, causing the television to reboot when power demands fluctuate. Visual inspection of the power supply board requires removing the television's rear panel. Look for capacitors with bulging tops, leaking electrolyte residue, or discoloration around the base. Capacitor replacement requires soldering expertise and appropriate safety precautions when working with electrical components. The main board, which houses the television's processor and memory, can develop solder joint failures or component defects that trigger rebooting. This hardware failure often presents as a boot loop where the television reaches the same point in the startup sequence before restarting. Professional diagnosis using specialized equipment can identify failing integrated circuits or memory modules. Mainboard replacement represents a significant repair, and cost considerations may favor purchasing a new television depending on the model's age and replacement part availability. Systematic troubleshooting progresses from simple software solutions to complex hardware interventions. Begin with power cycling and connection verification, advance through software updates and factory resets, then address thermal and power supply concerns. Hardware component failures require technical expertise and cost-benefit analysis to determine the most practical resolution. This methodical approach identifies the specific cause of the rebooting behavior and guides you toward the appropriate solution for restoring your Hisense Smart TV to reliable operation.